So first, I guess we'll explain why it's a meme at all. Like, what is the joke? The joke is going from a C sharp to a D flat. Well, here's a C sharp, and here's a D flat. It's the same key. So when you have two notes like this that are spelled differently, but they're the same key, that's called an enharmonic equivalent. Enharmonic equivalent. So the joke is it's the same key, so it didn't really change. But it's not really as simple as that, because C sharp, D flat, even though they're the same key, they still have really different harmonic functions, and you usually see them in very different contexts. And depending on which one you use, you can really demonstrate how much you know about chord progressions, how chords are built, how chords work. For example, right here, we're trying to make an A major chord, which looks like this. Now, a chord is built like this. This is the A major chord, A, C sharp, E. In root position, a chord is built in thirds, an A to a C sharp, 1, 2, 3, and then a C sharp to an E, C sharp, D, E, 1, 2, 3. So there you have the thirds. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So a root position chord is stacked in thirds. So the notes to an A major chord are A, C sharp, E. But say, like, if you were taking a theory class and you had to write an A major chord and you wrote this, A, D flat, E, that would be wrong. That's not the A chord. Because like I said, chords have to be stacked in thirds. But if you used a D, it would be more like this. A, B, C, D, that's 4. Then D to E, that's a second. And neither of those intervals are used in making a root position chord. And any professional that saw this when someone was trying to write an A chord, I mean, we would assume, they don't know what they're doing. So that by itself, like if someone wrote this first, that would be wrong, and then changed it to the C sharp, that would be a significant change. That shows that their understanding has grown. And then, not even like the note by itself, but how it functions in chords is also very different. Won't get into all of them, but like here's I think some good examples to illustrate the difference. So in this one, you can see the C sharp at the top of the chord. Here, this would imply D major, so C sharp is what we call the leading tone, the 7th note of the scale. So the 7th note, its job, when it's in this dominant 7th chord, is to resolve up a half step. So what that sounds like is you would have that, and that would resolve. So the C sharp went there. C sharp goes to the D. So that's what it does in that chord. But in this chord, you see the D flat right there. So you can see they're both on the top. The C sharp is on the top, D flat is on the top. But now they have a completely different role in the chord. In the A7, the C sharp was the leading tone that had to resolve up a half step. But here, the D flat, since an E flat is in the bass, the D flat is now functioning as the 7th. And the most fundamental rule about 7th chords, or dominant 7th chords, is that the 7th has to resolve down a half step. So in this case, the D flat, it can't resolve up to a D. It has to resolve down to a C. And this time, instead of going to D major like we did over here, because it's a D flat, it's taking us to A flat major, A flat versus D. And those two keys are not related at all. So now, this C sharp, it's not going to go here. Like, that doesn't sound good. It's going to go here. It resolved down to a C. So the other one took us here, and now it takes us here. And not only that, we could change this shows you how the spelling, even if it's the exact same chord, still has really different, a really different harmonic function. So if you look here, this is the same, these are the same keys. E flat, B flat, G, C sharp, E flat, B flat, G, D flat. So if you press those on the piano, they'd be the same keys, but like we just saw, when it's the D flat, we want to go here. But if it's a C sharp, now, since it's a C sharp, it's not a seventh from an E flat anymore. Now it's a sixth. E, F, G, A, B, C. It's an E flat to a C sharp, so that's an augmented sixth. And those function very differently than a dominant seventh. And so now this C sharp is going to resolve up to a D, and the E flat is going to go out to a D. So now this same chord we did a second ago, now it's going to resolve out like this. Very different. And notice that changes how this chord sounds. It changes where that C sharp wants to go. It changes the flavor of that C sharp. Because now if I do it the other way, you don't really hear it wanting to go there now. Like what? Now you do. Now you hear it wanting to go. But again, if it's a C sharp, it's going to go here. So, depending on its place in the chord, how it's spelled, its function, that same key can take us to at least 3 different tonal areas. Here it took us to D major, A flat major, and G major, all depending on where it is in the chord and what it's doing. And how it's spelled shows that you understand that. So, I guess the lesson here is it's a bad meme because a C sharp and a D flat are very different, and they have very different musical implications and create very different musical landscapes.